Thank you, Professor Kramer, for the nice introduction. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Before I start my talk, let me mention about Professor Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan. In fact, he is the one who has given the roadmap of Indian education system. Today, Indian education system is vibrant because of his seeds he has sown. To give you an example, he was second vice chancellor of Andhra University, where I spent 40 years of my life. And also, he was the second president of India. Highly educated. He taught in UK for several years. He has sown the seeds, as I say, particularly what we are discussing today. He conceived long time back, transformative science. And he has given a definition by establishing a department called meteorology and oceanography. That is what I call two broad disciplines brought together and made a single department. So that was the kind of thought process he had. And he also used to say, in a classroom, teacher and taught have to learn together. In Sanskrit, there is a good saying. They say, Sahano Bhavat, that's what they say. Together, we advance the knowledge. So, I think yesterday there was a discussion about community learning. These concepts are also given by Professor Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan, a great philosopher, philosophy teacher, a thinker. More than that, a leader in education who has shaped the Indian education system. Well, when we talk about drug discovery, I think most of you are aware, it is so complex. And most of the drugs come with a warning that the risk factor. Is it possible for us to go for a new design such that the risk factor is minimized and the curative aspects of the medicine is improved? So while doing that, the broad spectrum of disciplines which we need to master, including computer science. In fact, I gave the same talk when Dr. Kramer and Professor A and Professor Ram visited India. And since then, we made some progress. I cannot say good progress, but some progress. So all these disciplines, and it's very difficult for a single individual to master all the disciplines. But I thought, through computer science, again, I think day before, we had a wonderful talk given by Dr. Paul Kurjan, who is doing a good job, computer science for fun. He has mentioned several examples. Professor Ram was also with me. So, computer science perhaps is the fulcrum of the new thought process, and particularly to solve problems the society is facing. So, computer science, control theory, statistics, mathematics, bioinformatics, molecular biology, all these fields are necessary. When I talk about control theory, I will come back. Particularly, I am talking about a complex disorder or disease called diabetes. I will skip this. I will come back again. When I talk about diabetes, somehow this is a genetic disorder, we call it. There are several types of diabetes. In fact, now they found there is gestational diabetes. That has link for the genes. Before that, diabetes has become such a difficult disorder, particularly for the Indian population, that to the population coming from my region called Andhra Pradesh. There is a joke in our country that India is diabetic capital of the world, and my place is diabetic capital of India. So that's how they say. The economic implications are many, but more than that, our worry is people who should be very active at the age of 40, 45, they are falling prey for this disorder. Maybe because of lifestyle changes, and we are trying to find the reasons. Of course, insulin is one which was a boon for diabetics for a long time, but after that there is no break. So we are trying to look for some of these issues through our computer science. Again, systems biology is a complex or combination of several disciplines, and perhaps people of different disciplines need to come together, or until such time a new discipline evolves, people of different disciplines should come together and master this. Particularly systems biology of diabetes, we are more interested, and all these aspects have effect on diabetes. When I said control theory, I tell you a simple example of control theory in diabetes mellitus disease. When we are hungry, we eat. And once you reach the satiation level, you stop eating. That is what we call control theory mechanism. There are two important proteins in our body. They call them leptin and ghrelin. One tells start eating. The other tells stop eating. Unfortunately for diabetics, this control mechanism fails. So they do not feel hungry and they do not know where to stop. And most of the people try to eat more, and again a kind of recursive aspect takes place. Then now we are coming to a new discipline called disease biology, where we make intensive study of all the factors potentially responsible for causing this disease, and we generate vast amounts of data. And this is what we call information overload. How to cope with this information overload, how to look at the patterns. This is the new discipline which is emerging. Most of you know about bioinformatics, but we are looking beyond bioinformatics and data mining. My focus is mostly on diabetes. When it comes to diabetes, we have several genomic variants and phenomic variants and all. So it is sometimes region specific. This is also another important point. That's why, though good research is taking place, we are not able to get at the level of controlling this disorder. We have a wonderful organization called Indian Council of Medical Research, very, very active. It is constituted as a national body, and they did several surveys, and they arrived at the number 62.4 million cases of diabetes in 2011. And this is a kind of a deceptive number. The incidence of diabetes is much more. Some of them are not being noticed. This is again a challenge when it comes to diagnosing the disorder. When it onsets is not yet known. Broadly, they say any time between 25th year and 45th year, one type of diabetes. So it's difficult for people to go for blood test every time to confirm whether they have diabetes or not. So this is becoming another big problem. Here, the challenges are, can we look for biomarkers so that we can aggressively administer some of the preventive drugs or whatever it is, or change the lifestyle so that the onset is pushed for some more years. Of course, this is economic burden. It is estimated to be around 5 billion. In fact, as I said, prevention is through education. We tell who are susceptible for this disorder to change their lifestyle. That's preventive aspect. But once it sets, then treatment, at least to control the sugar levels. This is estimated conservatively 5 billion. This is what ICMR has given. But there are some people who never tell that they have the disease and do not tell that the amount of money is being spent. We do not have good data collection mechanism as far as the diseases are concerned, particularly the diabetes disease. By and large, we say that all the affluent people who are over 45 or 50, they are susceptible for this disease because of lack of exercise or luxurious lifestyles. Of course, this is one wonderful paper, came he has taken the case study of India and found that among all the income groups, there is increase. If you look at 98 figures and 2005 figures, there is increase in all the income groups. So this is alarming for us. What is happening? What will happen to the nation? As I told you, when the people are productive at the age of between 40 and 45, if they pray for this treacherous disorder, they can't give their best because everything in the body is affected, including brain. So this is a great concern for us. And now India woke up and doing several studies how to prevent this growth. In fact, we call these things pandemic. It's not epidemic, it is pandemic. And to control, we are doing well economically now, and we are also concerned about these things. What would happen after 20 years, after 30 years? Most of our younger population, they are coming and working in places like Europe and America. They earn a lot, but in this process, the lifestyles have changed, and they come back as diseased people. So if they come, that becomes the burden of the country. So this is a great concern for our planners. That's why there is all-out effort to control this disease. Well, several aspects. Diabetes, most of you must be knowing that it incapacitates people of all the organs, and like screening and every aspect, prevention strategies are initiated. And eating habits, they cause. So again, we need to educate them. And like any other demographies, we also have certain percentage of people who do not go to school. For such people, educating becomes a little difficult, so we are trying to get into a kind of volunteering service, conduct some medical camps or medical education camps or whatever it is for the diabetic prevention. And this is another good finding. Asian, particularly Indian population, diabetes occurs a decade earlier than the white population. Again, we have to look at the genetic composition, and wherever it's possible, can we alter, if not in the present generation, for the future generations. That's another challenge which this country has taken upon. I don't know how far it is true because there is no reliable scientific data, but he has published about thrifty genotype, which is common in Asian population, where there is a process of fasting and feasting, that famine and hardship. That could be one reason, but again, we need to analyze. If we get some clue here, perhaps that would help us in pushing our agenda of preventing this disorder. And again, a thrifty phenotype, malnutrition of the baby. This is another important factor, not only in Asian population. I think it's also true for African population. This is where we are trying to really address the issue at the prenatal stage, malnutrition, and now otherwise not known in Indian population. Now we are discovering that pregnant women who are susceptible for diabetes at a later age, they are being diagnosed as the diabetics during the pregnancy. That's what they call gestational diabetes. If that is an indication, perhaps the child would also get diabetes at a later stage. So these are some of the advances we have made in this research work. This is what we call gestational malnutrition. Is it causing that? Again, we need to analyze data. Again, Shetty has published. He has published taking mouse models, and mice has become genomically close to human beings. This is the latest discovery. This is what we call non-communicational disease. This is non-communicable disease. Ramchandran et al. They have talked about junk food, lack of hard labor. These are the major precursors for type 2 diabetes. This is what they call maturity onset diabetes. This is the diabetes I am talking about, which sets at the age of 40 or 45. Now the occurrence is coming down. There are people who are getting diabetes at the age of 30 or so. Again, because of tensions or whatever you might call it, tensions at work. Now, is it possible for computer scientists, because computer science has done so much to the society by solving many of the problems and making our life easy. So we are trying to look at the way how the information within the body can be analyzed so that all these diseases, particularly type 2 diabetes mellitus, can be addressed to the issues. This is, I think, a German scientist has given this. Life confronts us in an exceptional variety of forms. Like a monocellular organism is more complex and purposeful in its design. Although matter and energy are necessary, fundamental properties of life, they do not in themselves imply any basic differentiation between animate and inanimate systems. And he says, all living organisms have the information they contain in all the operational processes. So without doubt, the most complex information processing system exists in our body. And he also given every day our body processes something like 10 to the power of 24 bits. This is the amount of information processing takes place in the body, and it is 10 to the power of 6 times more than all the libraries put together in this world, the information they hold. So that means that's the amount of information processing takes place, whether it is hormone system or organs, in all aspects. Generally, the only people who get trained in medicine, they try to address the issues. I thought that because of my region, which is suffering with this kind of disorder, in fact, more or less in our region, we found that 60% of the people above the age of 45, they have diabetes. So is it possible for me to help the younger generations, at least to predict, so that they can postpone the onset? Here, Alan Turing's principle, you know better than me, but I try to make it simple. There are two processes in the human body they call transcription translation process. When you send a message from here to here, there is a lot of noise, the channel code. Of course, several information page said that this, why it is happening, because of the obstruction or whatever you might call it. The same way in a human body, are we getting the right protein from the gene or not? That's what we are investigating. So, to get a right protein, what is it we need to do? Can we do some correction? He talked about information. Of course, this is my edition. This is what I call transcription translation process. Maybe Shannon's, of course, George Gamow said that this is history, but to make it simple, a gene makes a protein. When gene makes a protein, there is information transfer process. This transfer process, if it is understood well, then perhaps we can address the complications of the diabetes mellitus, or at least the prevention process. This is HE gene and LS protein. These are the two aspects, transcription, translation. And I don't think I have that slide. This helix, and there is a description. Promoter region and terminator region. In fact, a gene which sits on the DNA, which is a long thread, you can imagine. Because of the double helix, it gets unzipped. That the place where it unzips is called promoter region, and where the zip closes is called terminator region. In all our bodies, it doesn't happen the same way. It happens this side, that side. Now, our important research is to find where exactly the promoter region starts, where the terminator ends. This process is on, but to understand that, we call DNA is having latent information, and protein is a manifest information. So, from latent to manifestation, what are the aspects which may make it manifest, whether it is being manifested correctly or not? Again, a kind of a protein folding problem. So, information, the definition is to put into form. That's how we are trying to look at it. So, conceptually, we are looking at it. And again, to refer to Professor Paul Kurjin yesterday, computational thinking, again. Now, we are in the era or the age of computational thinking. Every problem is being abstracted, and we are given a procedure for solving the problem. We are giving a solution to the problem. This is what we are calling computational thinking. And the institute where I work now is named after a great statistician India produced by name C.R. Rao. He and I together are thinking about, instead of computational thinking, of course, computational thinking, mathematical thinking, statistical thinking, these are all essential for knowledge societies. So, can we imbibe these kinds of practices for the kindergarten students? Like Mathematics Olympiad has become international, started with Hungary. Now in India we started Statistics Olympiad. Similarly, we want to have Computer Science Olympiad. Maybe I would like to meet Professor Kurjin, where he is doing a good job, computer science for fun. We try to go to the other direction to bring in competition among the school-going children. So, we need to change the paradigm. The computational thinking setup should be set in the minds along with mathematical thinking and statistical thinking. As I said, computational thinking, this is took away computer science beyond programming and data management. Some new concepts, new thoughts are occurring. So, as a simple process for a drug design or drug discovery, some biological words like a ligand, a receptor, etc. To be simple, this is ligand and this is a receptor. It should attract, and when it attracts, the whole thing should become a molecule. Then perhaps the drug which is even in the form of a ligand, has an effect. Of course, binding is not so easy. Pictorially it's okay, but when it binds with several things like hydrogen, bonds, etc. That knowledge or scientific knowledge I don't have, I don't master that. I take the help of my colleagues, like displacement of water and things like that. Now, translational research or transformative science. Most of the doctors practice it, but what is happening is the cycle is much larger. The patients are not getting the benefit of the current knowledge or current therapies because of several risks involved. So, in silico method, where we want to test whether these medicines would work on humans, of course, we do animal studies first, then try to move on experimentally with lower doses and record. We want to quicken the process of medication. This is what we are calling translational or transformative, and we call it bench to bed. This is being practiced in select hospitals in my region now. We always believe that if you have a right tool, you can get the object. So in a haystack, if you lose a needle, perhaps you need a magnet. Similarly, if you know the maladies of the DNA of your body, you need a computer to analyze that. So through computer process or computational thinking, more and more we try to understand the mysteries of human diseases. So translation is a continuum, and again, the gap between what we know and what we do in public health is now lethal to us. So we are trying to educate at the same time the patients and also the doctors, the practitioners, the whole process. And with this, we are hoping to get some good results. Are you able to see that? Is it okay now? So now we are encouraging public-private partnership in this process, taking this translational research initiative and a clinical research policy, and we are changing all these mechanisms, and we are trying to really give a thrust to the clinical research through a re-engineering process. That is the motto. Again, this is another slide, empowering the patients, improve patient health, and the translational faculty. This is another important thing which I picked up from STPS conferences. Can we develop translational faculty or transformative scientists? Most of the knowledge is specialized in isolation by people in their compartmentalized faculties. We are trying to, as I said, our Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan has introduced this meteorology and oceanography department, where scientists of meteorology, people of space science or atmospheric science, and the oceanography come together and try to give solutions to the societal problems. So like that we are trying to, we have branched in information technology, bioinformatics, or we are calling it diabetology informatics. So this is one new subject which I have introduced. And the students are doing pretty good, particularly looking at the biomarkers. We already found one biomarker called butyrylcholinesterase, and we are working on another biomarker. As I said, this is only region specific. We do not know whether it works for other demographies or not. That we are testing. So we are developing translational faculty through our process to help translational research so that the issue of diabetes can be addressed more carefully. And again, cells and cellular systems, as I said, we can view them as information processing systems. Biological signaling, I already told you something about this leptin and ghrelin process. Is it possible? Maybe yes. If it is yes, how soon? Perhaps you have to look at it. And one of our research findings I will try to share with you at the end through the computational process which we have got. As I said, not many effective drugs have come. Why only diabetes? Too many diseases. So what we need to do, can we aggressively go for new development of diseases or new drugs for some of these diseases, particularly cardiovascular diabetes or diabetes related complications. And the drugs which are made are not truly innovative. As I said, after insulin, no such drastic medicine or therapy has come. A systematic approach perhaps can help us, and this is again, WHO has mentioned that high burden disease, that is how they classified that. High burden disease is diabetes, and now I am telling our academia to work very vigorously, particularly for the Indian population and in my region also. But some results are coming, not radical, but some results are coming, and we hope some radical results would come within a couple of years. As I said, biomedical informatics, this is what we are calling now, and which would help in the knowledge discovery, where we are trying to use all computational tools and to address the functional genomics experiments. As I said, there is so much of information overload when it comes to proteomic data. In fact, Craig Venter and the US government have come together in sequencing the genome, and more or less still they are not fixing the number of genes. They say anywhere between 30,000 and 40,000. But when it comes to proteins, there is no such fixed number. They say still these 30 to 40,000 genes make trillions of proteins, and the proteins which are made in our bodies are individual specific. In such situations, how to analyze the data, how to give a general drug? Should we go for a designer drug? And a designer drug might become expensive. Of course, future is there where we can wear a gadget which could cure all our diseases, and I think an article has appeared at the Craig Venter's invention of bacteria. The human life can be stretched for 1,000 years. I saw an article like that. So we don't know what would happen in the future, but the present burden is well understood by the processes of data management. So now the 21st century challenges are understanding the genetic cause of disease and the ability to translate this information into a new diagnostic therapy. This is what the translation process we are engaged with. This I will try to skip. Maybe this is what our research is. We found that there is a protein, PDX1. I do not try to explain the. This is what we call insulin promoter factor. And this is what is a transcription factor, which is necessary for the development of beta cell maturation in the body. Now we are trying to see if the diabetes is severe, whether this insulin promoter factor is working or not. Another important aspect which is happening in diabetes is it's not enough insulin is produced, it should be consumed also. So in the human mechanism, what happens is when you eat more, the more insulin is produced, so that the food which is taken is converted into energy. That mechanism doesn't work for diabetics. So if you take more insulin, then there is another syndrome called insulin resistance syndrome. That means more insulin means insulin is not getting absorbed, it floats in the body. And any amount of new insulin which you take, still it doesn't help. So this is another important aspect. Now we are looking at root cause, whether PDX1 can help. Well, again, we went for several of the things. These are some of the series of tests which we have made on the patients, and we found we gave a plan. I don't know whether you can read that. Ultimately, here most of the tools used are computational tools like blocking software and structure prediction software and binding site prediction. So these are all a protocol which we have developed, and we are trying to look at, as I said, data analysis, which is what, and try to match, and ultimately can they come together so that there will be an answer for the structural predictions. So here in this study we have selected 55 proteins which are very close, and among that we have taken 9, some using some rationale, and constructed. This is what they call tree, where there are biological significances, and among the 9 we reduced it to 2. So here I think we simple process, and what we did is we subjected this data to several of the software packages which are available, and ultimately with the help of our pharmaceutics and medical practitioners, that PDX1, in fact I had changed it after coming here. This sitagliptin is the drug which is being manufactured now with some name, and validation, sitagliptin is being validated. When we started our research, this medicine was not available. So this is a kind of protein which is available naturally, and that protein is binding with whatever proteins which we have, like I said, ligand receptor process, and this has given or giving good results. This is what is being reported by many of the publishers. So these are all the series of software packages which are subjected to our data, and final docking results we have validated. So this is the process. In fact, this again we are trying to automate. So now make it simple, as I said, translation process, and increase the translational faculty in our different departments. We try to take the blood samples of the diabetics, sequence them, and come to this protein PDX1. If it is less, then give them stigleptin or whatever it is. So that is how we try to look at it. Instead of prescribing the same drug to all the patients. So more or less we are coming to the process of personalized medicine. This is the experiment which is going on in our institute. I thank you all for giving me patient listening. If there are any questions, you can.